Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Semi-Professional Academic Podcast. As always, I'm your host with the most unread emails because it is my fucking break, Cheryl Jacob Watts. And joining me today is the hilarious, the iconic, the Bryophyte queen in the making, Kristen Hillegas.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on your show.
Oh, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I honestly have not prepared past this point, so let's go.
Me neither, so that's fine.
I will say though, I feel like the unprepared shows end up doing the best.
That's good to hear.
Yeah,
because I'm very unprepared.
Oh. How are you doing today though? Are you doing well?
I'm good. Yeah. It's been a chill day. I'm happy to get out of the house since I've been trapped in there for the past month. So yeah, it's been good.
I feel like the winter times is like the winter months of like December, January, February, even March can be just like a lot.
Yeah, especially like I couldn't really leave anyway because I had COVID and then stuff with my dog happened, but I also didn't really want to leave. So it was kind of a nice excuse because it's cold and I want to stay warm and cozy at home.
For me, when it's cold or when it's rainy, I want to be on the couch, snacks, weighted blanket.
Oh yeah, heated weighted blanket.
That just sounds like a game changer. Should I invest in one?
Yes.
Okay, I will. But yeah, watching TV, playing video games, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's on self-care. But, jobs.
Yeah.
But before we get too far into that, Kristen, would you mind just giving the audience a little bit of background about yourself?
Yeah. How much background? I was born in New York, weirdly enough. I grew up in North Carolina, though, near Charlotte. So most of the time I just say I'm from North Carolina because I only spent 5 years of my life in New York. And I have a little bit of a Southern accent from North Carolina. So when I tell people that I'm from New York, they don't believe me. But I went to undergrad in Asheville, North Carolina. And I got a BS in biology and a BA in anthropology. I originally went into anthropology too, because when I was in high school, I thought that I wanted to be a forensic anthropologist.
Like Temperance Brennan off Bone?
Yes.
I love that show.
I was very mentally ill and depressed and thought dead things were really cool. So I was like, let me work with dead people. Still really think that's cool. I still collect dead things, specifically bones. If there's any flesh on it, I don't want it.
Like animal bones, right? Like we're not out here collecting human bones.
No. While that would be cool, no.
No.
Keeping it legal.
Yeah, that just screams. I don't even do that much as like legality of it. I mean, obviously that as well. But like I have indigenous roots, so like that is just like,
yeah.
Don't fuck with that.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm just like, I don't know. If one of my never mind. If I died and one of my friends were to take one of my bones, I would be honored. I would be like, please take them. Put them on your mantle.
Yeah. Now if it was a friend, I feel like that'd be different.
Yeah.
But like just finding a random like skull, for example.
Oh yeah, no.
Woods, like absolutely not.
No. Even I collect like a lot of animal skulls, and even them I do this little ritual. I'm not that woo-woo, but this is one thing that I'm like, you gotta cleanse the energy a little bit. Yeah. And so I make like a chamomile tea and I like mist them with chamomile tea. Just kind of like cleanse it a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, so even animal bones, I'm like, I want you to make sure you're at peace.
No.
Yeah.
Is chamomile like known to have like that kind of like healing, like not maybe like healing, but like resolution energy to it?
Yeah, so I learned that actually because I talked to one of my old friends about it, and she grew up in Appalachia, and she said that one of her like grandma's like kind of Appalachian rituals was to put chamomile tea bags by the windows and stuff. And so I was like, that like to kind of, prevent negative energy from coming in. And so that's where I got that from. Because I was like, I don't know what herbs to use for this. Because I'm into herbalism in ways of like, I make tinctures and I make teas and stuff. So I'm into like the effects that it can have on your body, but not really into the spiritual herbalism as much. And so it was fun to learn that, because I felt weird with, especially those bones that I found. They were like in a pile, and just felt weird.
Not the pile.
Not the pile. It was snowing. There was a black cat around. It was weird vibes.
Oh, that's given the Blair Witch Project Winter Edition.
Yeah. But they're good now. They're all good. Yeah.
Good.
But anyway.
Love that. Okay.
But that's why I went to anthropology. Was because I was into dead things, and yeah, ended up taking my first botany class, and falling in love with it, and thinking that bryophytes were the coolest thing ever. Because I've heard of mosses before, but never liverworts and hornworts. And so I was like, this is really cool. They're just like these tiny plants with their own little world. Yeah. So got into that, and then graduated and came here.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a brief background with a lot more talk about bones than you needed.
No, like I say this to everybody, and I think everybody on the show kind of gets it. I always have like the questions I ask are very almost like a skeleton crew. Mm-hmm. Like that's the foundation, but like I want the meat or like the flesh of it, like in a very weird way. Like this is turning into a very ooky spooky episode, but like the heart of it, like I want the guest to kind of take that on. So like I live for this. I think that's so cool.
Good. Yeah. I like that it's an ooky spooky episode, because I feel like I'm a ooky spooky person a little bit.
I don't know like how to word this, but like you weren't like ooky spooky like in the like scary sense, but like ooky spooky in like the mystical sense.
Oh, I love that.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. But like Kristen, when you graduated with your BS and your BA, did you kind of know what kind of direction you wanted to go, or like were you still trying to decide between pursuing more of an anthropology route or more of a biology route?
I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I kind of had anthropology out of the question, because while I really loved learning about different cultures, and I loved being in the social sciences, it felt weird I didn't really want to be an anthropologist, because anthropology has some not so great roots, which neither does biology, but it felt weird to be a white person going to other people's homes and just kind of learning about their cultures to write about. You can definitely do that in a great way that benefits that community, but for me, it just didn't feel good for me to do that. So I knew I wanted to do biology. I love plants. I knew I wanted to do something with plants. I did an undergraduate research project with plants in that I really enjoyed. I love doing field work. And so when I graduated, I started working with the Atlanta Botanical Garden doing more field work, so conservation, field, biology type stuff. And I absolutely loved that. So I was just able to go out in the field in different places and look for plants there and record what was going on with them, and that was the best thing for me. But that internship was temporary, and I ended up working at the North Carolina Arboretum for a couple of years, because I still wanted to work with plants, so I was still doing that, and I was able to garden too, which I really love doing. Second summer of working at the Arboretum, I applied again to work with the Atlanta Botanical Garden, but as a technician instead of an intern, and did that again, and it was great. And that kind of set me up to want to do more conservation work with plants, and I still didn't know if I wanted to go back into academia, or if I wanted to keep working in the field and doing, just like more physical stuff. But after working at the Arboretum for a while, I really loved it, but it just got really monotonous. And I missed learning. And my parents got me this little microscope for Christmas one year. And at the Arboretum, I would collect liverworts and mosses, and I would ID them during my breaks. And I was like, okay, I think that's what I want to do. And I want to go back to school for this, because while I really loved working at the Atlanta Botanical Garden, all the plants that we worked on were vascular plants. So just like your flowering plants that you see. And I would see all these bryophytes and I was like, oh, these are so cool. But they were just kind of in passing, like we weren't focusing on them. Even though there are many bryophytes that are also in need of conservation. And so I was like, I want to go to grad school so that I get to ask these questions. And so I have more of a say in like advocating for these plants because they don't receive enough conservation attention. So yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But the experience at the Atlanta Botanical Garden helped me figure it out. And just being out of school for 2 years, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back. So that helped me decide to.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I just want to touch on this like a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's such a good point you bring up about your hesitation to go and be an anthropologist,
mm-hmm.
because I'm just going to say this, like
mm-hmm.
intent is good, but impact is always greater.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that, especially as white people, we
mm-hmm.
have kind of a responsibility to be more diligent about the impacts of what we're doing.
Yes.
And I think that's, while I definitely feel like you could have done that, because like just knowing you personally and like the person you are, I think you would have been able to do it just perfectly fine. But I'm glad that like you kind of recognize, be like, I'd be worried about it the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'd be less focused on getting work done than just avoiding mistakes.
Yes.
And I hope that doesn't get misconstrued, but like I hope everyone knows what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of like going back into like your pursuit to go back into academia and go grad school for biology, mm-hmm. what kind of made you pursue a PhD instead of a master's, or did you apply simultaneously for both PhD and master's programs?
So I only applied for PhD programs, mainly because I already had what I felt like was ample research experience as an undergrad. And my career goals were more set into things that would require a PhD. And so I was like, if I can just get a PhD, that'd be great. And honestly, since I was like, I don't know, in middle school or high school, I'm like, I want to be the first person in my family to get a doctorate. Then I feel like it was a little bit differently motivated. I was like, I felt like I had something to prove. Now I don't really feel like I need it that bad. It's just kind of what the career that I want to pursue requires, but didn't apply for a master's. I'd be fine with getting a master's first. But I felt like it was fine for me to just go straight into PhD.
Yeah, because your new end goal was PhD regardless.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I think that's very valid. And as someone who did the master's, it's a great degree. You can do a lot with it. Mm-hmm. And I don't fully regret mine, but if the end goal would have been the same, I would have just done a PhD first.
Yeah.
And specifically because we're in the same cohort.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel with like, because I think our cohort's an equal mix of people who have masters who did their PhDs and then people who are straight from undergrad into a PhD program. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you, like, is that weird? Like, just selfishly, did you feel like, oh, like I'm better than these people? Like, or did you, and which I think this one's probably like more common, like more for your speaking, did you feel like you had more to prove?
Yeah. It definitely gave me a little bit more of a sense of imposter syndrome because I was like, oh, wow, like, yeah, I haven't experienced grad school and I've been out of academia for a couple years now. Like, can I still do this? Am I still built for this? Yeah, so it was a little bit weird, but I don't know. After, like, just talking to everyone, it really humanizes people. You're like, okay, we're all just here trying our best to do the same thing.
I definitely feel like, because as someone who did the master's, I felt I had more to prove than someone who didn't, because I was like, oh, they got in without having to do the master's, and like I have this master's, so like I have to kind of like prove that I'm worthy to be here in the same way.
Yeah. And
I just feel like academia is constantly you feeling like you have nothing to stand on, so you have to like constantly prove yourself over and over again. So I was just interested to see how that goes. But kind of going into that, can you talk to us about a little bit of the actual search for programs and like, because to me, I found that to be like a full-time job pretty much.
Yeah. My choices were very limited because I knew I wanted to work with bryophytes. And I also knew that I wanted to stay on the East Coast because my family's here and I didn't want to be too far away from them. And also, I wanted to stick with places since I am a lesbian who has a partner, that both of us felt comfortable wherever we were moving and safe. So it was very hard. But
a lot of factors to consider.
Yes. I ended up only finding 2 people, one in Tennessee and one in Kentucky. And at first, both those places sounded really scary to me. I was like, Tennessee and Kentucky. Okay. That's coming from someone who's from North Carolina. But I was also from Asheville, which is like a nice little pocket in North Carolina that is more progressive compared to the rest of the state. And I feel like the 2 places that I found were kind of in similar situations. And so that was kind of encouraging. And I talked to different people about like the different cities and got some good feedback from people, which was nice. But yeah, it was definitely challenging to like find a place. But I'm honestly kind of glad that my choices were a little bit limited because that helped me narrow it down a lot.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people don't know that when you apply to grad school, it's not like applying to college where like you find one that's like, oh, this one looks nice. Like I'll apply that. And I'm not saying like that's how like everybody does, but I feel like that's kind of like the idea that a lot of people going to college for the first time have. But for grad school, especially in biology, because I won't speak outside of the disciplines, but you have to know kind of what realm you want to study and like what you want to go into. Then you have to find a program that you like, find an advisor that's willing, that is taking students, because not all of them are taking students every year. Like I know I've applied to a couple programs who the PIs that I absolutely loved, who only had one opening in their lab like every 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
So like just the timing is so hard, and I'm such an impatient person. You cast a wide net. Like I think I reached out to, because I wasn't like super set on what I wanted to study. I just knew what I didn't want to study. So I think that's like important. And I emailed probably like 20 to 25 PIs.
Oh, wow.
And out of those who have availability, only 5.
Wow.
And the amount of interviews I got through all that process, 2.
I think I only emailed 3 PIs. One of them was moving to like a botanical garden in another state, so they weren't accepting anyone. The other 2 I was in contact with and like had interviews with them. But like I applied for one place and I never got like a response on my application.
Oh, same.
I don't know what happened. Like I would look into the portal and I would get nothing. I never heard back from the PI. I have no idea what happened, but
maybe the PI got fired.
No, she's still there. I don't know what happened, but either way, Kentucky was my first choice anyway. So I was like, after I got into Kentucky, I was like, okay, whatever.
I will say though, Kentucky was probably like the fastest, like getting a response back, everything. Like I was so impressed. Again, for like the people that don't know, like they typically want you to reach out to like potential people like in the summer.
Yeah.
And I don't know that. I just thought like I was being super ahead of the ball. When in reality, I was like, oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And you set up times like to meet with them, like either like email, Zoom, call, whatever. And then you get to chat, you get to know each other, they ask you questions about yourself, like typically like most common questions, like, why do you want to join my lab? Which is like a very fair question, but like I hate just like open-ended questions because I'm just like, how do I game this to get them the answer that they want? But then they say like, yeah, go ahead and apply, or like, I just don't think it's a good fit. And that's not always like a bad thing. Like just sometimes like you might be interested in something that they just don't have the expertise or bandwidth to take on. And that's not a knock on you, and that's not like them being an evil person or anything like that. But I've never taken, every time I've said I don't take things personally, I lied. I take things very, very personally. And I don't know, like that, like, so it wasn't necessarily a confidence boosting time for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was like that for you or not.
I don't know. Honestly, so the PI that I really wanted to get in with, and why I came to UK was working on liverworts, and not many people like liverworts. And so honestly, I think that he was just excited to hear that someone was interested in liverworts. And I think the first thing he asked me was like, so why do you like liverworts? He was like, that's not normal, right? And I was like, yeah.
The academic version of what the fuck is wrong with you?
I'm like, I'm not known to be normal. And I told him why I liked him. I was like, I just think that they're really cool for anyone who doesn't know what a liverwort is. It is not a disease, which most of my family thought when I told them that I was working on liverworts. They are these non-vascular plants. They're the most, I hate saying this, but they're the most ancient plant lineage. So they've been around, their lineage has been around the longest, as far as land plants go. And they can come in different forms. So they can be thalloid, so they just look like, they kind of just have like wavy edges, no real leaves, just like a thallus. Or they can be leafy. And some species, the ones that really got me interested, were they had sex structures that look like alien umbrellas. You should look them up. They're really weird looking. And I thought they were so cool. I'd never heard of them before. I'd never seen them before. Now I look for them wherever I go. And I show everyone else. I'm like, look, this is a liverwort. And they're like, what? I have no idea what that is. But I told him, I was like, I just think they're so cool. And I think that excited him because not many people say those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't really feel quite discouraged because I was like, oh, this is someone that I can talk to about this who's also excited to talk to me about this because it's just a very niche interest.
That's so cool. I love that. I want to ask more about that, but before we get too far away from it, as a openly gay man myself, and this is not necessarily like this isn't pointed or anything, but I've never been taught by an openly queer person in academia. And I don't know about you, but I make it kind of like a very, not like a being it down their throats, but like I'm very like open with the fact that I am queer to my students and my lab mates and anyone I encounter, because I feel like that representation is so important. And I just don't know, like, kind of like two questions I have is like, were you able to have more queer representation during like the beginning of your academic career, and how important is it for you to be open with your queerness for like your students and lab mates and all that? Yeah.
I did have more representation, I believe. I had a few teachers who I knew were lesbians, which I was like, yeah, gay rights. Yes.
Let's go lesbians.
Yes. And so that was really cool to see, but I don't know. Going into academia, I really want there to be more representation, but even just like being a TA this past year, I found like that my shame was coming back. And I felt weird talking about it.
Like shame? What do you mean?
Like I felt shameful because I was like, I have to come out again. I don't have to, but I felt like it was, I don't know. I felt like I wanted to. Like I was like, I want my students to know that, like I am gay, and that if they are, that's cool. We can talk about it if you want.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There was just still like some, the internal homophobia, that is like, don't let it out. Don't let them know.
Yeah.
And I
to quote Elsa, conceal, don't feel.
Yes. And so that like shame came back. And I think I only mentioned like twice, like having a partner and she in the same sentence. And that was like when there were only a few students around. And I didn't like feeling like I needed myself to hide it, because I do think that there should be more representation. But now you've inspired me to be more open about it, because I do feel like it's important, because I really enjoyed having openly queer teachers when I was an undergrad. But that was also coming from me as another queer person. Yeah.
And I just know for me, like, so I started college in the closet. And I went same to a very small liberal arts school. So like there was only 5 bio faculty and only like 30 bio majors. So you got to know the students a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And I cared about doing well in school. So like I had like close relationships with my professors. And my first 2 years, I felt like super supported. I felt like I could really come to like any one of them for anything. Like I really did. And junior year, senior year, like also the pandemic happened and like they were overworked. So like I'm not dismissing that by any means. But when I came out, I kind of felt that tone shift.
Mm.
And not all of them by any means, but like there was like some of them. And I think I was lucky enough to have a friend who's gay in grad school as well. And he specifically told me, do not let anyone know you're gay until you get into the program.
Oh, wow.
And do not tell your students that you're gay because that will hurt your teaching evaluations.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was scared of. But it shouldn't. But yeah.
No. And so I was scared of that too. And I was like, I feel like as a cis white gay man, this gets super savior complexy, and I hate the way that it sounds, but it's just how I feel. I feel like that burden is on me to take that risk as well, because I have a lot of other privileges that a lot of other queer people do not. And I was lucky enough that I had like such an accepting lab here at UK and supportive, and I have such supportive and honestly accepting students. Like they genuinely like loved me. They loved me a little bit too much. They were asking me like, who am I dating and like all this stuff. So like it was like a little like no. Yeah. But like the heart was in the right place. And this is like what I mean, but like I want representation. I don't want every child to be gay. I don't want every child to be trans. I don't want every child to be a drag queen. Like I could not care less. What I do care about is that if there is a queer trans kid, whatever, they never have to worry about concealing that because nobody like them can succeed in this field. And that's just like kind of like my thoughts on like why it's so important to like be open with my students about that. Yeah.
I like how you didn't let that fear win like I did.
Well, I mean, again, like I have more privilege than you. So like
only a little bit, but
I mean, like it's also in academia, no one really, and I'm not blaming this on like our institution at all because there's no rule book for it, but no one really tells you how to succeed in academia, but especially no one tells you how to succeed as a queer academic either. Yeah. Especially in a science field, which is not predominantly queer.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it was weird for me coming to like a larger institution too, because especially going to school in Asheville, it was like a nice little bubble. Most of the people there, I think it's safe to say, are queer, especially at UNCA. We would call it UNC gay.
Period.
Most people were queer. And so it felt like a more safe space. And then coming to this larger institution where it's not like a comfy little bubble. It is more of a bubble than the rest of the state. But it doesn't feel as safe as that community did because it felt like I was part of the majority almost. It kind of felt like I was in high school again. I just felt like some shame. Like I was like, oh my God, they're going to bully me. Like my students are going to bully me. Like, no, they're not, probably. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I need to get out of that mindset again because I was so comfortable at my old institution that I'm like, I always wanted to come back into academia to make a change and to like represent underrepresented communities like the queer community and women in science. And now I'm here and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot this is going to be hard. Yeah, I forgot that it requires work and it's not easy. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Me, when the challenging degree I signed up for is challenging.
Yeah. Like, oh crap. Yeah. This is what I want to do, I guess.
Yeah. But no, I get that. And like, I feel like that feeling of high school is so, because what I think a lot of people don't understand is that queer people are very good at surviving.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very good at masking as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're neurodivergent, we're very good at masking. So I kind of like fell into that a little bit as well. Because like during the kind of like interview process to get to UK.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was hesitant even then to be like, oh, like I can't like do this. Because just selfishly, that's another... You risk being oppressed when you're being 100% yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, nope, just gonna... Like I had nail polish... Like the day before interviewing, I had like nail polish on, and I had like very like I dressed a lot more like obviously queer, so like I like removed all that and like from my face and everything to pass as straight. And I was like, I hate this, I'm not doing this. And I actually like came out to my advisor, which I hate that queer people have to come out all the time, but I feel like it's necessary in some regards. And I was like, hey, like just let you know, like I'm queer, and what is that going to look like? How are we going to navigate that? And she goes, I feel like having diverse perspectives on science is how we continue science. And I feel like if you ever feel uncomfortable about that, I hope that you know that you can always come to me and talk to me.
Period.
I know. I love her so much. I can never let her know, though. Can't let her get soft. But, no, I say that. And she follows the show, and I was just like, oh, supportive mentor. But, I don't know. It's because there is that risk, though. And I don't know necessarily, and I'm not telling you how to feel, but, like, I feel like for me, it wasn't just shame. It was just a familiar way that I knew how to survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And while not necessarily like I like it, I know it works.
It's more comfortable in a way.
It's more comfortable to...
It feels more safe.
Be uncomfortable in a way that's safe. And you take that risk of like, oh, do I want to be comfortable in who I am, or do I want to be comfortable in the way that knowing that I'll be alive the next day? And you kind of... And I don't mean to like be dramatic with this, but I mean like queer people get killed all the time for just being queer. And I think I feel like while in some ways we're making progress, we're also going back a little bit.
Yeah.
Just look at the state of our country. So I think just having more queer voices in all aspects, including academia, kind of encourages obvious representation. We need more than that.
Yeah. I just love remembering back to our first meeting. And I feel like we were both trying to straight pass so hard.
My voice was like 2 octaves deeper.
I totally believe that you were straight.
And the Oscar goes to.
And then we started to like give each other like little peeks. Like I'd be like, my partner, she. And I just remember you being like, are you? Because I'm... And I was like, yes! Thank God!
I know.
And after that, we were just like, yes!
Yes, thank God.
Yep.
And I was so hype about that. Well, for multiple reasons, because like one, I thought you were like so cool, and like, I wanted to be your friend. But two, like it's so tiring being the only queer student in the room, and I would like, and I was also in a fraternity in college, and like no shade to them, like some of them were like so great, and like I was lucky enough to have like a gay president like during of the fraternity during that time, a gay chapter advisor, a gay house dad, so like there was like a lot of like queer representation. But there was a lot of times, and especially in the classroom, where I was the only queer student. Well, I was the only out queer student. The DL boys were still my DMs, but it's just very, I don't know, like you feel like more alone, because not only do you have none of the people who've like made it, like the professors, who look like you, but you and are people like you, but you also have none of the people like going through that like you as well. And like again, I'm not painting them as antagonistic, because like I've been very grateful to have a lot of supportive mentors and like good friends and students as well. But they're just different, you know.
Yeah.
But I will say, I feel like our cohort is very queer.
Oh, I agree. I'm here for it.
I love that so much. I feel like I think it's at least 50% queer.
Yeah.
First, like 50, like confirmed.
Yeah.
And I want to tell everyone this. There's only 3 white students in our cohort, and all of us are queer. And it's so funny to me. No straight white man in this cohort. We really won. We really won. Oh my gosh. And no shame to them, but they have had their moment.
It's our time.
Next album. That's so funny to me. And I was thinking about that, and I was just like, I remember, because you had, I don't even know, like, you were, like, kept using, like, partner, and I was just like, okay, like, there's 2 types of people that use partner. Like older people refer to, like, their, like, husband of wife for, like, 50 years that they married at, like, 17, or actually queer people, and I was just like, okay, she went to North Carolina. She has green hair. I don't think. But, like, I didn't want to just, like, out you because I knew what you were doing. Yeah. So, like, I waited till we got, like, outside, and, like, I kind of, like, hung back a little bit, and I was like, are you? And it was just so validating to me on so many levels. And it was just, I know that just sounds crazy because all you did was exist. But, like, I feel like a lot of people misunderstand, like, we don't want queer people to run the world. I mean, we should, but, like, that's not like, what we're wanting. We're just wanting to exist.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah. And it was very comforting to go to a new place where you already have at least one person that gives you a sense of community and belonging in that place.
Because moving is hard.
Moving is really hard. I hate moving.
So do I. Like, I moved so we started at UK in August. Up until May, I was in Illinois. Then I moved to Indiana for 3 months. And then I moved to Kentucky. So, not a lot, but when you factor in all, like, the moving and the boxes and everything, like, that's a lot.
I've only moved, like, I moved from near Charlotte to Asheville to here, but within Asheville, I think I moved, like, 4 times, maybe 4. Yeah, because I lived in the dorm, other place. Yeah, I lived in 4 different places.
Dang, that's a lot.
In Asheville, yeah, because Asheville housing be expensive and crazy. So you be moving.
Get it together, Asheville.
Yeah, I don't like moving. It's a lot. I have a lot of shit too, so that doesn't help.
No, same. I love a knick-knack, like, collector. No.
Me traveling to different places, not traveling, but moving to different places with a box that's labeled Bones Fragile. That's my favorite thing.
I love that. Oh my gosh. So, just kind of, like, jumping back into it. So, we get to UK, and, you know, like, we got our TA, we're taking classes. What do you think has been, not necessarily the hardest, but, like, the thing you didn't necessarily expect about PhD life? Was it the intro to grad school?
No, honestly, this is gonna sound stupid because I knew that it was a thing, but I didn't at the same. It's one thing to know, and it's another thing to live it. All the reading.
Oh, God.
I don't like to read. My friend would make fun of me because she was like, you're going to get your PhD and you don't like to read. I was like, yes, that is correct. And I listen to trap music.
That makes sense. Like, I like trap music. This is going to sound very basic because I don't really listen to trap music, but would you consider Trap Queen trap music or no?
Sure.
Or is it like the marijuana of, like, trap music, like the Gateway song?
Yeah, I think that's I think that's more like it. But yeah, anyway.
That's just a wild thing I said. Like, is Trap Queen the marijuana of trap
I love that, honestly. And I listen to all kinds of music, but that's just one thing, and they just thought it was funny because I don't like to read and I listen to trap music. You wouldn't think that I'm going to get my PhD. But yeah, they expect you to read a lot. And I knew that they were going to, but it's one thing to, like, know that you're going to have to read a lot to, like, reading a lot. Yeah, and I don't know, the things that I'm interested in, I guess I like reading about them, but I would rather someone tell me about them Do I have to read it on paper? I'm a very slow reader. I don't know why. I've always been a slow reader.
Same.
It takes me a while. So it's frustrating and it puts me to sleep. I don't know why. There's something about it that's just like, okay, good night now. Yeah, so that's probably been the hardest thing is like making myself read, which isn't terrible, but I feel like I should be reading more than I have been. But I feel like that's kind of everyone too.
I mean, like, I don't know a single academic who's just like, oh, I've read everything. Like,
my job's done.
My job's done. Because, I mean, if our job was done, then we wouldn't have a job.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's very easy to be like, oh, like I could have read more. But at the same time, I know people who read a lot who don't retain anything. Mm-hmm. And for me, if I read something, I really want to retain it because, like, why am I wasting my time?
Yeah.
And for me, I've always been this way as a kid. I need to read something like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
To get it to stick in my brain. And I feel like I just kind of had to tell myself, okay, maybe 2 papers a week that I really understand and I really can retain that information is better than me reading 5, only somewhat getting what the main point was.
Yeah.
Now, let's be real here. There's just some days where you just gotta, like...
I'm not reading 2 a week.
There's just some days where you can't, and I won't name her, but one of the faculty members at our institution told us this, and I will never forget it, is always try, but recognize there's sometimes where you just can't give it 100% and you have to half-ass something sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I like that because, I mean, like, who really, statistically, who's going to be 100% all the time?
Yeah, that'd be exhausting.
No. Yet somehow I do it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So now that we've got the first semester under our belt, mm-hmm. and we've had experience with classes, we have experience with more experience with classes, teaching, and research. Are you starting to feel like a little bit more like coming into your own, or is that still like a process we're working on?
A little bit. I feel like I'll be more confident after the field season. Because right now I'm not really working with much. Like I have a collection that I've been working on, like IDing. But as far as like I'm not gonna do any. That's not gonna be my PhD. Is gonna be like me identifying things. That's not it. So I feel like once I'm actually working on a project more solidly, I think I'll feel a little more confident and like I know what's going on. But like right now I have an undergrad student that's going to be helping me in the lab this semester. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing in the lab.
Undergrads are crazy. Like I remember it was like my 3rd week in the program. My advisor's like, hey, can you like monitor, like take over these 2 undergrads like projects, like what they're doing? And I was like, okay. Like,
well, my advisor's having her work on a project that I'm working on. And I haven't even, I've somewhat started one of them. It's dealing with like staining fungi and liverworts.
I love staining.
Oh yeah, it's great. I'm taking practical microscopy next semester. I'm so excited to learn more staining methods.
Oh my gosh, I love staining. Mm-hmm. I took a class in my master's program called Intro to Microtechnique, mm-hmm. and the last, like our cumulative project, we had to preserve a specimen in paraffin wax, and then using serial sectioning, like put it on like a rotor and like cut like I think like 200 freaking things of it, and use different staining techniques.
Cool.
To highlight different parts of it, like what we're gonna see. Oh, it was a pain in the ass, but it was like so satisfying to be like, I am a god. Yes.
Yeah, it was a little bit Yeah, it was a little bit more reassuring when my advisor was like, you know, like if for this project, like if y'all just want to work on, like perfecting the staining technique before you do any like solid research with it, like that's fine. If y'all just want to work it out together and figure out what's best, that's fine. And I was like, thank God that I don't have to have this like whole project ready for this undergrad when I don't really, I tried a bunch of different concentrations to figure out what staining worked best. And then the microscope that I was supposed to use, was not working. And so I had to use the dissecting scope, and you can't see enough on there.
You can't see shit on that.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, I did all this all day. Did this whole staining technique, and now I can't even look at it, and my advisor's gone. And that was all I've done on it so far. And so I was like, thank God that we can just figure it out together, and I don't have to have like the solid research project for this other person.
Yeah. No. And that's kind of like what I like too, is like I'm more of like monitoring instead of running. And I was like, oh, thank God. Oh my gosh, I'll never forget it. It's like she literally asked me at the worst time because the day before, so like I'll paint the story. I work with sawflies, which are tiny little flies that can kind of honestly fit on the nail on your pinky finger. Like they're very tiny. And I had just completed a mating assay between a male and a female, so I was going to set the female up to like lay eggs in the tree. And males, you got to be careful because they can fly away like very quickly, like they're very good flyers. But everyone in this lab told me that females, oh yeah, they can't fly, like they're too heavy, they can't really fly. So like I'm not really, obviously I watch them, but like I'm not thinking that like, oh, like this is gonna be like crazy or anything. So I have this tree and like I set this female on the leaf, fly, literally goes up about 5-6 feet in the air into the fan in the ceiling and gets flown around, and I try and grab her, and then she flies away again, and then just suicide bombs into the humidifier in the lab. And I was like, I'm looking around like I've been here a month, and everyone told me that like, oh yeah, like the females aren't good flyers at all, like da 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 da.
And they'll never believe you.
They'll never. They still don't. I told them numerous times how that happened, and they're like, "Sure, Jan." And I'm being 100% honest. And then and it was a horrible time because the day before that incident happened, I was setting up another mating assay, and then I find a female that has both male and female characteristics. And for those who don't know, sawflies, particularly the sawflies we work with, have very different male and female morphologies, like different coloration, different patterns, and different wings, different antennae, everything. So I was like, I don't know what's happening. And like I said in the group chat, they're like, oh yeah, that happens. I was like, y'all need to tell me what's going on. Like, I don't, like, this is not funny. This isn't huge. I'm by myself. This is 6 p.m. in the lab. I thought I found a fucking monster. Like, this thing. I thought, like, I was going to be on the news. Like, we can't do this. Like, no, please. And then combined with the flying away, like I'm still convinced that they do not believe me. Like, I think like no one called me a liar, but like no one really been like, dang, that was crazy. They're like, oh.
Really now?
Yeah. So I really think they're lying. So one of these days I'm gonna get a camera and I'm gonna set this up. So when these things happen, be like, I told you all along. Like,
of course it'll only happen when the camera's not working though.
Oh, or when I'm gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I do finally have proof, they'll be like, yeah, you said that. But no, I'm kidding. They're a very fun lab, but I felt like no one really. The reaction to what I was telling them was not giving shock. Mm-hmm. It wasn't giving. But I mean, like, I know that you said like you started to like come into your own like a little bit with like getting accustomed to research, teaching, and classwork. But has your kind of motivations or like end goal shifted since being back into academia at all, or is it kind of the same or slightly altered?
It's kind of the same. I'm still not quite sure. Because originally I was in between, like when I graduate, whether I want to work at be a professor at a liberal arts small university or small college, or if I wanted to go back into the field and do conservation, more hands-on. And still don't know about that, because after TAing, it solidifies for me that I really do love teaching, but I also really miss the field, and I like to do more physical things. So, yeah, and I think why I'm leaning more towards teaching is I'm like, well, I could do both. I could do field work in the summer. But yeah, I still haven't really decided too much. I think that after the field season, I'll feel better, but I'm just like, I need to be outside. And it's been really nice too, because there's a research station like a couple hours away that I went to with my advisor and my lab mate, and like we went and collected some plants and looked at some stuff, and I was like, okay, y'all can just leave me here for like a couple months, just like give me like a couple cans of food and come get me later, because I could be here forever. Yeah. And after that, my advisor was like, do you want to do like a small project where you like kind of make a list of the liverwort and moss species that exist there? And I was like, does that mean that I could go back there more? He was like, yeah, like we could go more regularly and like collect more stuff. And I was like, yes, please. Like having that more outside time, I think will really just kind of make me feel more confident in academia, that I can have both. Yeah, because I think that's really the only, it's like, I want to learn, but I also like to be outside and to learn about things by doing them and by seeing them in their natural environments.
I get that. You bring up like another thing I want to ask, because, and I don't mean this to be shady, but this could be considered shady, and I really don't mean it to be such. But as a new grad student coming in, you're already joining like the lab culture, and that can be good, that can be bad, like if the culture, like depending on the culture. So I know for me, like my lab's a super lab combined with like 2 different labs, and I was the only first year PhD student to join. So how was that, like joining like your lab, and like do you feel like that everyone's personalities like kind of like mesh pretty well together? Or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I didn't have to worry about too many people, because there's only one other person in my lab besides my advisor, and she's great. We get along great. And I kind of thrive more in like smaller groups. If there's too many people, I get overwhelmed, and it's just, no. I like to have my own space, so that's nice because I have my own office. I get to turn the light off, and I have little lamps, and it's just a nice vibe in there. Nice. No overhead light, no windows either in the whole building. But I at least,
be a crime.
Yeah, but I at least get my own little space. I might build a little terrarium in there. We might have like a little terrarium competition.
Ooh, that'd be cute.
Yes. Apparently they've done that once in the past, and I'm like, I want to do that.
Bring that back.
Yes.
Along with the Choco Taco.
But yeah, it's nice coming into like a small lab. We are like unfunded, so we don't have as many resources as other labs, but I don't really mind that, because I'm also not interacting with people a lot in other labs, I feel like, that are like doing really crazy stuff. And also my work doesn't really require a lot of money.
That's so nice.
Yeah. And so when I first joined the lab, he was like, just so you know, we are unfunded. Like I don't have a grant right now. And he was like, are you sure that like that's okay? I was like, yeah. As long as I get to work with liverworts, I'm cool.
I love the transparency in that.
Yeah, me too. Because especially I was also applying for another school that had a grant, and he knew that, and he still was completely transparent with me. And he was like, I might be shooting myself in the foot here, but like I want you to know this. And it's like, as long as I get to work on liverworts, I'm cool. I'll be happy. Having an office, big plus. I like having my own space. And yeah, we all get along really well. My office is in between my advisors and my other lab mates, and so I can bother them whenever I want. And my office is also the location of the refrigerator and the microwave. So whenever they get to come in to eat lunch and stuff, I get to harass them more. It's a great time.
Yeah. For me, like, I felt like that same way. Like, I felt like everyone in my lab kind of got together. I joined the lab at the same time that we got a new postdoc. And just for, like, clientele-wise, we have my advisor, our postdoc, me, 2 PhD candidates, a lab manager, and I think 10 undergrads total.
Wow.
So, like, it's a big lab, and the PhD candidates are, I don't even know what year they are. I think the most senior one is in her 6th year, and the middle one between the two of us are in their 4th year.
Wow.
So, like, there's, like, that big gap between us. So, like, sometimes, like, I feel like their younger sibling that just wants to, like, go around and, like, hang around and be like, what are you guys doing? Like, what's going on? Like, and they're just so over it. Like, no, I shouldn't say that. Like, they're very, like, nice people, but, like, they're, like, very busy.
Yeah.
And, like, they're also, like, older. Like, we're just in very different phases of life.
Yeah.
Simultaneously. But I'm just, like, be my friend. Like,
yeah.
Like, I have, like, this obsessive need to be liked. But
same.
Everyone in my lab is just so, like, with that many people, and, like, I mean, like, that just happens. Like, there's gonna be, like, miscommunication, like, stuff happens, but, like, really, for that many people, we are doing such a good job. So, like, shout out to, like, my advisor and everyone who came before me to, like, cultivate that culture.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think it was nice coming into the lab because I felt wanted. Because
that's so important.
The lab was so small. Like, my lab mate now, she was like, please, please, I really hope that you come. Like, and before that, she was telling our advisor, like, I want a lab mate. I'm the only one here. And so it just feels good to, like, be wanted in that space and to be able to, like, have people to collaborate with, even though it's such a small group. I'm like, we all like liverworts. This is the most people that I've ever been around that like liverworts, and there's only 3 of us, but that's still cool to me.
I love that. My advisor is thinking about taking on another PhD student. I'm just like, please, like, I need, like, I need someone in here, like,
give me a younger sibling.
give me, like, that. And, like, I don't mean to, like, I hope that doesn't make it weird, like, the way that I feel like, I just, like, feel like that's the way it is. But that's so nice that, like, you were met with, like, such, like, openness and transparency, and also just them wanting you to come. Like, like, that's so nice.
Yeah. Feels good. Yeah. I like to be wanted.
Oh my goodness. But Kristen, we're wrapping it up here, but there's one question that I ask all my guests before we leave. And that is, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice about your academic career, what would it be?
Only one? I want to say study plants. Do that sooner. But also, it's okay to get bad grades. It's okay to get a B in particular for me, because I'm not bragging. I had not made a B until my first semester of college. And I thought it was the end of the world. And now, looking back at it, thinking about, like, in elementary school, like, the EOGs and stuff.
The EOGs?
You know how to take the EOGs? The end of grade exams? I like the end of grade exams. Is that only a thing in North Carolina? Anyway, any test before, like, high school, it matters a little bit, okay? But it doesn't matter that much to, you know, just be completely miserable. And I wish that I knew that. Little me. Because I
people-pleasing perfectionist.
Yes, I feel like I, like, suffered so much because I wanted to be perfect. And really, at this point, is anyone looking at my grades in middle school? No. Is anyone looking at my grades in high school? No. they did an undergrad. So like high school, you know, if you want to go to college, you should probably, do well. Try your best. But if you don't make A's and everything, if you're not perfect with anything, it's fine. No one's perfect. Except for me. Just kidding. I'm not perfect.
I was so hoping you'd be like, is anybody perfect? And then I was going to say like me. And then you just like changed it. I'm like, damn it.
But yeah, grades are not everything, even though they may feel like everything, and I still think that they are everything. They are not. So don't stress about it as much as you think you should. Yeah, I think that's my piece of advice.
No, I think it's a lot easier said than done.
Oh yeah, for sure. I still care, like I said.
Oh yeah, I care so much, but
I wish I didn't as much.
Same. And for everyone who's like listening, I had a full breakdown when my draft got an 85. So like I was draft of the paper. I was like, time to drop out. I literally Googled how to drop out, and I was just like, this is so like this is my fourth degree.
Googling how to drop out.
Yeah. Like this is my fourth degree, and I was just like, and I'm just like, it's so camp. It's so camp. But like, yeah, I think you're right. Like, I just give yourself that permission to not be perfect.
Yes, give yourself some grace.
Well, Kristen, thank you so much for coming on to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
It was such a fun time for me.
Yes, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to tell our audience?
Look up liverworts. They're really cool. Love them. Yeah, I don't know. Appreciate them. Period.
Oh. That was a good one. That's such a good one for me.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And as always, I'm your host, Jacob Watts. And if you're gay, stand up. If you're straight, go home.
Yes.
As Renee Rapp once said. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.